Hi, everybody. This is Marlene with Erie News, and today is April 11th, 2022, Monday, April 11th, 2022. And because I do want to mention this, I'm recording this on my homestead in North Florida. So if you hear unusual noises, everybody that's familiar with my audience, my podcast knows that that's life on the homestead here in North Florida. But anyway, let's get on to the weird news. All right, and there's plenty of it. Isn't that great? You know, first one is out of Argentina. It's an e-zine called Epoca, and basically it's titled "Dog Saved a Boy from Drowning," and they blame the kidnapping on Pombero. Pombero is a local goblin legend. The creature would have traveled around 3 kilometers from his house to the place where he was finally rescued from inside a lagoon. The town believed that the famous goblin may have carried it. On the podium of miracles, without a doubt, the rescue carried out by a dog that managed to hold a 3-year-old boy who had fallen into a lagoon, and the owner of the field who pulled him out of the water occupies first place for these hours in the joy of all the people of Berron de Estrada. But in the midst of so much joy, concern, and mysticism are mixed, since they attribute the fact that the little boy was taken by El Pombero, almost 3 kilometers away. It was the widow of former Mayor Curi who managed to get the child out of the mirror of water, alerted by the barking of the dog. The story, with police overtones and quite a lot of popular beliefs, happened yesterday morning in Berron de Estrada. Mariela Escalante, owner of a butcher shop in the Toro Piche area, was unloading some cattle when her almost 3-year-old son Sebastian decided to leave the house, heading in an uncertain direction. From a truck, one of his aunts saw him go to the house of another relative that is only meters away. In rural areas, this is common. He was dressed in his Captain America cape and told me he was going to go look for his comic book character. Today, he didn't have classes, and I knew he was going to my sister's, but he never got there, he told the newspaper. Maria Escalante, mother of Seba. Immediately we started looking for him in the neighbor's house, where he usually goes, and we didn't find him. I called my brother, who was a police officer, and we alerted the firemen and the whole town. We live in desperate times, said the woman, still anguished. But Sebastian did not go alone. Morocho accompanied him on the trip, his woolly puppy that goes with him everywhere. After almost 2 desperate hours, the police received a call that the boy had been rescued from inside a lagoon. The notice was given by Gladys Arguello, widow of former Mayor Curi, who was touring her field when she heard Morocho barking. The baby had gotten into the water, and his dog was trying to drag him, holding his cape with her teeth. Gladys did not hesitate, and she jumped into the lagoon and managed to get him out. He never went very far from home. He does not know the mountain. He walked almost 3 kilometers, crossed 7 wire fences and 2 mountains to get there. We found zigzag tracks in the mountain, and this is not natural. We are sure that Sebastian, the Pomberito, kidnapped. This is not the first time that a boy is lost and found far away in that area, said Mariela, slipping a hypothesis into this whole story that for many of her cases is not easy to digest as real, but that inside he is very rooted in popular beliefs. After his rescue, the boy returned home, managed to take a nap, and when he woke up while having a snack, he told his mother he had gone to rescue Captain America. Sebastian was checked up by a doctor from the local hospital and advised his mother to give him a hot bath and something to eat because they could still see him excited by the strange and dangerous experience he had to live through. We are waiting for the priest to come to my house and give him a new baptismal blessing. We here believe that this being kidnapped my son, Mariela emphasized. The young mother had words of gratitude for Gladys Arguello. If she hadn't heard the dogs barking and she had gotten into the lagoon to get my son today, he would be drowned, she concluded. But the story of Mariela and Sebastian is not the only one with the same characteristics. Several local sources consulted by Time coincide in reporting another similar event that occurred a few years ago and that had another child as a victim. The story of the locals indicates that he had also disappeared under similar circumstances and that he was found in the vicinity of where Seva was located. Unlike this child, that victim was speechless and could never tell how she had gotten to that place. But if there is something that all those consulted agree on, it is that behind these disappearances would be the mythological goblin, with a gloomy appearance, and that according to stories carried down from generation to generation has among its particular behaviors the kidnapping of kids. The truth is that Sebastian was fortunately located healthy and with his mother. Mariela hopes with the passing of days that her son will finally tell her how he managed to travel the 3 kilometers that separate her house from the lagoon, in which he almost drowned. And I think that's so interesting because it's I know that small children sometimes they can, especially at that age, they move faster than we give them credit for. But 3 kilometers and through fences and a rural area to go from one to the other, I don't know. It almost makes you think, did he go under his own speed or did something else happen? That's very interesting. Okay, we're going to move on to another story. This is out of Africa under the Kanyai Daily. Okay, 107-year-old witch doctor, teenager sent to prison for removing 12-year-old boy's eye. Okay, a chief magistrate's court in Kano has ordered that a 107-year-old witch doctor, Sayara Furera Abubakar, and 17-year-old Isa Hassan should be remanded in prison for allegedly plucking out the eye of a 12-year-old boy, Mustafa Yunusa. The prosecution counselor, Mr. Lamido Soran Dinky, told the court on Wednesday that the defendants committed the offense on March 19th at Riman Hamza's quarters, Taruni local government area of Kano State. Abu Bakar and Isa, both residents of Dansink quarters, Kano, are standing trial on a 2-count charge bordering on criminal conspiracy and attempt to commit culpable homicide. Soron Dinky alleges that Isa, the first defendant, was ordered to bring a human eye to be used in preparing an appear and disappear charm by the second defendant, Abu Bakar. He said about 9 p.m. on March 19th, the defendants conspired, deceived, and lured Mustafa Yunus to a nearby stream and plucked out his right eye with a sharp knife. As a result, the victim sustained grievous hurt and was rushed to Murtala Mohammed Specialist Hospital, where he was admitted for treatment. However, Sayara had denied the allegation following her arrest, insisting that she only wanted to assist Isha to produce traditional medicine. "I'm just a traditional herbalist. He's lying. I have more than 50 grandchildren, and I did not remove theirs. Why should I do that?" she had asked. The plea of the defendant was, however, not taken on Wednesday. The chief magistrate, Mr. Mohammed Jibril, ordered that the defendants should be remanded in a correctional center and adjourned the matter until April 11th for further mention. Kanai Daily had also reported how 36-year-old Islamic cleric Amodu Jamu was arrested for allegedly abducting a 15-year-old girl and attempting to use her for ritual in Ogun State. Okay. And this, I've heard that some of these, I'm not sure if these participants, if they're Muslim or if they're not, and this is some type of other belief system that they have, but I have heard that in Africa they do have like muti magic and other things like that, where unfortunately they do use body parts, children sacrifice, to basically accomplish or complete some type of spell. And here's this kid, for those of you watching, is like, he's got an innocent face, and if she's 107, to me, when I hear this thing about an appear and disappear charm, makes me think of the invisibility cloak in Harry Potter. I don't understand. Is this somebody that's out of touch with reality, as in the kid? And her defense that she's got 50 grandchildren and she wouldn't do anything to, yeah, of course, because they're her grandchildren, So that one's For people who think that nowadays very out there belief systems cannot be fatal to others, I beg to differ. This is a good example of it. Let's go on to the next one. This is from Anomalian. Scientists from the USA launched a project to resurrect mammoths. I knew this was going to happen. Mammoths lived during the Pleistocene and at the beginning of the Holocene. A giant species of a mammal that could reach a height of more than 17 feet became extinct due to a sharp change in climate. Currently, huge skeletons of ancient giants are located in museums, and scientists have been able to learn quite a lot about their lives. Nevertheless, research with mammoths does not stop. Geneticists from the American company Colossal announced that they have begun a project to resurrect mammoths. The author of the project is optimistic about the implementation of his idea, saying that their research group will be the first to be able to implement this idea. The project itself is not an illustrative example of the possibilities of science. Scientists believe that their experience in the resurrection of extinct animals will help restore extinct species due to human fault. Okay, this animal did not die out because of human fault, so I don't know. According to sources, the scientists have raised more than $15 million for their project. Nevertheless, scientists gave an objective assessment of their work. The head of the scientific project said that after 20 years, people will be able to see a real mammoth. Scientists have said that the first mammoth reproduced in the laboratory will be the size of an Asian elephant. The fact is that geneticists plan to combine the DNA of an Asian elephant and a mammoth using gene editing methods. The choice found this particular species of elephant since the DNA of both mammals is almost 100%, 99% similar. I was wondering about that. I was thinking, why an Indian versus an African elephant? Very interesting. Let's move on to another one. This is out of Mysterious Universe. A mysterious, haunted, cursed lighthouse in France. Located at the western tip of Brittany, France, is a stretch of wind-lashed sea called the Ras de Seine Strait, dotted with a remote chain of barren rocky islands and shoals relentlessly battered by massive waves up to 70 feet high. It is a forbidding place to be at the best of times, and long posed a threat to ships passing through these treacherous churning waters. Perched out on one of these islands, little more than a rocky outcropping, jutting from the froth, is a lighthouse called Phare de Tevennec, or Tevennec Lighthouse. Just sitting there in the middle of the fierce gray sea, it sits there forlorn and alone, just above the ferocious boiling ocean and biting waves, looking like something out of a horror movie, which is fitting because this isolated little lighthouse has a dark history and is known as one of the most haunted and cursed places in France. The chain of islands where the lighthouse is located is called the Chaussée de Seine and has long been considered difficult to navigate through and a major hazard for shipping. To help ships get through the gauntlet of rocks and shoals, the whole way plagued by vicious currents, a series of lighthouses were built here, starting from the 18th century, and the Tevennec Lighthouse is one of these. The craggy rocks of Tevennec, called the Stevenette Banks, were considered to be an especially bad area for ships, with the currents operating here in just such way as to push vessels towards its steep, jagged maw, the island like a hungry beast pulling its prey in. Indeed, the rocks of Tevennec were so ruthless and deadly that mariners said that the island was inhabited by Ankou, the Breton name for death personified, and that he would pull the souls of sailors towards him across the water. The legend was that one could hear the horrific wails of Ankou over the roaring waves and whipping winds, and it was a place that was avoided as much as possible. Indeed, the lighthouses in the region were collectively known as Hell by sailors and lighthouse keepers, due to the deaths and the bleak, inhospitable conditions. Untold numbers of ships met their doom here, notably during the Napoleonic Wars, when in 1796 the French ship Séduisante was dashed against the rocks at Tevennec, taking hundreds to their watery grave. In response to the dangerous, hungry nature of this ominous passage, Tevennec Lighthouse was constructed in 1871 and first activated in 1875. It was designed and classified for having just a single keeper who would do 1 year of service and another keeper would come in. This was no easy job, as being completely alone out on that speck of rock, surrounded by the lethal expanse of cold sea, buffeted by never-ending strong winds, with only one's own thoughts as company, was often described as being a sort of hell, making a year seem like an eternity of suffering. The first lighthouse keeper at Tevenek wouldn't even last this long, and would begin its sinister reputation as a rather malevolent, haunted, and blighted place. The first lighthouse keeper was a man named Henri Guisenek, who almost immediately, apparently, experienced strange phenomena there. He would claim that he saw shadow figures lurking on the rocks, and that disembodied ghostly voices incessantly told him to leave. There were also allegedly various freak accidents that plagued him, and it apparently got to the point where he could not sleep and could barely do his job. The story goes that within months he went completely insane and had to be relieved of duty, practically incoherent and spouting garbled stories of the ghosts relentlessly tormenting him there. A replacement named Minu was sent, and he too apparently had strange experiences there and went mad within weeks. Two lighthouse keepers losing their minds so fast and in such quick succession was definitely odd, and the French government changed the designation of Tevenek to that of a two-person operation, but this seemed to have not helped. During the first year, one of the two lighthouse keepers stationed there died in a sudden freak accident. Another keeper passed away suspiciously. A third was found dead in his bed of unknown causes, and a fourth is said to have stayed there with his father, who slit his own throat with a razor after going mad. After this strange spate of death, there was much talk that the lighthouse was cursed, haunted, or both, and there was even a priest brought in to exorcise it, embedding crucifixes into the rocks to drive the evil away. The government then adjusted the rules so that married lighthouse keepers could bring their wives. This seemed to have worked for a time, with the first few couples having no particular issues other than the utter desolation, but the husband of one family who moved in died when he accidentally fell on a knife, and a family that moved in 1907 faced tragedy when a storm knocked down a wall and killed the wife while she was in bed in childbirth. It all makes for what French writer Jean-Christophe Fichu has called one of the strangest places in the history of lighthouses. In 1910, the lighthouse became automated, as it remains right up to the present. For decades, Tevenek Lighthouse remained uninhabited and completely avoided by superstitious locals, and there are even reports of mysterious lights or apparitions by passing vessels. It seemed as if people were happy to leave that bleak island and its insidious forces to itself. Yet in 2015, Marc Pointude, president of the National Society for Heritage, Lighthouses and Beacons, set out to stay there for a planned 2 months as part of a campaign to advocate for the preservation and restoration of France's historical lighthouses. Undaunted by tales of hauntings and curses, nor by the various delays he faced due to bad weather, he was dropped into the island by helicopter and lived there in meager basic accommodations. During his stay, when asked whether he had experienced anything paranormal, Pointu said in an interview with Marina Reservation, "Up to now, nothing. We must put these stories in the center of the 19th century. Legend, superstition, and religion are mingled here. The guards didn't used to communicate at all back then. They were really isolated. This is not my case now, and we are at the 21st century. Therefore, there is no news with Ankou yet. Fortunately, because the one who sees it dies in that same year." Pointu completed his stay without incident and apparently enjoyed it so much that he has plans to make it into a more permanent residence. It is hard to know what to think of this place. Is it haunted or cursed? Or is it just a deeply eerie, forgotten place in a dangerous place that has managed to pull at the imaginations and draw to itself spooky legends? The lighthouse still sits out there on its rocky perch, uninhabited by nothing living, stared at by passing vessels, and just maybe staring right back. Very unusual, huh? I like that. I like those haunted lighthouses. Yes, definitely. Okay. Let's see. This is one that I wanted. Okay, the story is from 2021. But sometimes when we have these stories of sightings of Bigfoot or Sasquatch or anything like that. Sometimes, we get all these shows on that all these Bigfoot shows, and everybody just draws them, and these actual first eyewitness reports, they get buried. They're overlooked. And this one, it's from Anomalian.com, and it's titled, "In California, police officers saw the body of a huge Bigfoot near the highway." On the evening of January 23rd, 2021, Californian police officer Rick Bates was driving down an empty highway returning home when he saw a very massive humanoid figure lying face down the side of the road, covered from head to toe with brown hair. The site of the American Bigfoot Field Researchers Organization, BFRO, recently posted a new Yeti sighting reported that was sent to them by a police officer named Rick Bates. On the evening of January 23rd at around 8:15 p.m., Bates was driving his car home to Garberville, California, on Highway 101, returning from a mission from Brookings, Oregon. Quote, "I was driving home from Brookings, Oregon on 12321. I was southbound on Highway 101 south of Garberville, Garberville, California, and south of the Bembo Inn. The road makes a few turns and the speed limits drop in the area. As I rounded a sweeping right-hand turn, I saw a figure on the southbound shoulder of the highway. I was the only vehicle in the area about 8:15 p.m. My speed was about 45 to 50 miles per hour as I passed the figure. The figure was laying on the shoulder of the road on its right side. I estimated the height to be about 7 feet. I was looking at this creature's back and noticed it had broad shoulders and had a thick torso shape. While the shape similar to a human, it was not human. It was not a bear either. I could see muscular features in its glutes and a head on the shoulders that was somewhat tapered toward the top and being held off the ground. Its hair was chocolate brown and very coarse. The hair was not like fur like that of a bear at all. I turned around at a distance past the spot and returned to where I'd seen it. No other vehicles had gone north or south from the time I saw the creature to the time I returned to its location, which was a 2-minute estimate. When I got to the spot where I'd seen it, the creature was gone. As an avid hunter and fisherman, I spent a lot of times in the wood. I spend every summer camping in that area, as well as a kid. I've never seen anything like what I just saw this evening." End quote. Singular 40 researchers have discovered that a police officer named Rick Bates is indeed a real person who serves at the headquarters of Ronald Park, California. Researcher Matthew Moneymaker was later able to contact Bates and talk about his case. He said that Bates is only 20 years old, but he's described as a very observant and responsible person. He drove this highway many times, and he no doubt saw a large animal lying next to the highway in the dark, illuminated by the headlights of his car. The question is, what kind of animal it could be. He hunted bears, elk, deer, etc., and he says that this creature had a manifest human body form, but covered with hair. His body was lying perpendicular to the highway. His feet were within 1 foot of the white line on the side of the highway, as if it had been hit by a car earlier, Moneymaker said. Okay. Now, think about this. Was that a Bigfoot that got hit and maybe knocked unconscious by the side of the road, maybe by an 18-wheeler? Or was this a Bigfoot that was killed and who dragged it away was other Bigfoot? Because I know there's theories out there about as far as why Bigfoot remains, carcasses, whatever you want to call it, are not found is because other Bigfoot or Sasquatch take the trouble to remove the bodies, either hide them, or in some cases, some people even theorize that maybe they have some type of burial, whether you want to call it burial or some type of something that they do with the remains of other Sasquatch, whether it's put in a crevice or bury it or, put some type of covering on it. Maybe that was the case. Who knows? Very interesting. All right. Don't forget to check me out on EERIE News, EERIE.NEWS, not EERIE.NEWS.com, EERIE.NEWS. Put up articles, and I'm hoping to sooner rather than later get up to a daily news release of all the weird and unusual things going on in our world. So till the next time, take care.